Hey guys, welcome back to the Enzolo Strength YouTube channel. As per usual, my name's Coach Yuta, and today I actually have Coach Kate joining me. She is a physiotherapist and a running coach, and today she's going to be telling us all about how we can get back into running after a hiatus and or getting back into running after an injury. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video because we actually want to give you a bit of a plan to get back into running yourself, and you should really understand the steps that it's going to take for you to get back there. All right guys, so I have Coach Kate here. She is a physiotherapist and running coach. So Coach Kate, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you, what you do with your clients, and what you do in your everyday life.
Yeah, I've been running for 20 years, so I'm a running enthusiast, and I've been a physiotherapist for 13 years and became a strength coach 10 years ago as well, and then threw in a running coach certification.
Wow.
As well, because I really like helping people get back to running. Turns out that's my niche.
So I know you said you're really into running. What's the longest run you've ever done?
It was just in May. I did a 50-mile race, which ended up being 85K.
85
It was
kilometers.
actually 52 miles at
Wow,
the end. Yeah.
that is a long, that is a long race. Where was that?
In Winthrop in Washington.
Washington.
Had about 2,500 meters of elevation as well. So climbed up some mountains, climbed back down, climbed up again.
Okay, no, that's insane. In terms of the clients that you generally see, like coming back to the running, what are some of the big things that you see with clients that are coming back into running, or maybe they had an injury? What are the common things you see?
A lot of the time, I'll see clients who have gone too hard too soon, so increase their volume far too quickly for what they can handle, and people who have ignored little signs that their body's not coping with the load to the point where it's become a pretty serious injury. That's typically what I tend to see. That, and I treat a lot of trail runners, so a lot of sprained ankles.
Yeah, just because of the uneven surfaces, and for sure. And I think there's some definite crossover there with people that I see. I have a lot of office workers and, just everyday Joes, so to speak, coming to me. And a lot of what they say in the beginning is like, oh, I'd love to get back into running, or I used to run 10K, I used to run 15K. And they really want to get back to that point. And I kind of have to, slow them down and say, hey, well, you've just been sitting for 4 years and not running. So there's probably a little bit of work we need to do prior to you actually getting back and running on the pavement again. So I think that's what we're going to kind of cover next year is what it kind of looks like getting back into it. What are some of the considerations for you as somebody considering getting back into running? What does that look like? And what is kind of the pathway forward? So in terms of you have somebody coming in, they want to get back into running. What are some of those first steps or those first phases they should be considering?
The first consideration is like how physically fit you already are. That's number one thing you need to think about. If you're not doing anything and you may be like going for a couple of walks during the week, we want to start really small and then build from there. If you are already physically fit, maybe you play a sport, maybe you lift at the gym, then we can probably start you with a higher volume program to start running because your body can handle it a little bit better because you've got the baseline strength.
Okay, so just having a general physical fitness is going to be a good place to start for most people. And you said baseline strength. So in terms of, something I help with clients with a lot is just, strengthening their glutes, their quads, their hips, working on mobility. What are some of the baseline things you like to see in terms of strength for somebody that wants to get back into running? What's a good kind of gauge of if they're ready for that?
That's a good question. Number one thing is calf strength. You're only as strong a runner as you are, or how strong your calves are. So can you do 20 single leg calf raises? Okay. Number one thing I like to test. Can you stand on one leg? Running is a single leg sport. So you only ever have one foot on the ground at a time or no feet on the ground. Otherwise you're walking. So super important, can you stand on one leg? Can you jump up and down on one leg? That's where I would start. And then you can progress your strength training from there. And if your main focus is running and lifting is like a secondary, training tool for your running, we will use a lot of single leg strength work as our focus for strength training.
for sure. So yeah, like a lot of like, split squats or
Love a
step
split
ups.
squat.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, everyone loves a split squat. Maybe not the Bulgarians, but
Yeah.
a regular split squat. Okay, so we talked a little bit about having general calf strength, general single leg balance, and obviously just having an okay level of cardiovascular health. So if you guys are at that point, you're ready to get back into running. Kate, what do you usually see, or what do you want to have people do in the beginning? What is a great way to kind of transition into that initial phase of running again?
The most important thing that you want to think about when you're starting to run is that your cardiovascular fitness is going to improve the fastest. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the first run that you did will feel really easy. Your musculoskeletal fitness will take 6 to 8, but what we're really looking for when we're safely returning to running is how long it takes your tendons, your ligaments, and your cartilage to get strong, and that takes about 8 to 12 weeks.
Wow.
And you don't really feel it until it's injured. So the best way to start, instead of setting yourself a distance goal, is to set yourself a bit of a time goal. So we're not looking for pace, we're not looking for distance. You're gonna go out for, let's say, 15 to 20 minutes. And depending on what your cardiovascular fitness already is, you could start with like a bit of a run-walk pairing, or you could just start with a nice jog and see how far you can get. I personally prefer people to start with a run-walk combo, so run for 3 minutes, walk for 2 until you get to 20 minutes, and then give yourself 48 hours to recover, because that's what the joints need, and then do it again.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're starting off with like a bit of a run or a jog, and then walking kind of back and forth. So is it as long as you can run, and then when you feel like you're gassed out, then you walk? And then
Yeah, and that can be another way to do it.
Okay.
As well, is run until you need to walk, take a couple of minutes to walk, and then run again. It depends on how hard you like to push yourself as well. Some people don't really like to push themselves that hard when they run, which is totally fine. And some people want to redline it straight away. So also depends on what you enjoy doing.
Okay, for sure. And then so in the beginning, we're looking at building up time versus total distance.
Yes.
So instead of focusing on I want to do a 2K, 3K, 4K, I want to run for 10 minutes or walk for 20 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, because if we start with a distance goal, it can get a little bit dangerous when you're increasing distance. Our general rule is don't increase by more than 30% at a time, and you want to be able to comfortably run that distance for about 2 weeks before you increase.
Okay.
Again. So for example, I see a lot of people, they'll start running and they'll just start off with a 5K. Just go straight out 5K, and then they're like, that felt really good, I'll do 10K the next week. And that's where you start to overload the tissues in your body. Cardiovascularly, you're fine, you can adapt really quickly.
Yeah.
And then people end up coming to see me for all kinds of treatment. I tell them how to start again. But analogy I like to use, which you can obviously speak to, is if you're deadlifting 100 pounds and you feel good, you're not gonna go to 200 the next week.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Your body can't handle it.
It's not a normal progression of overload at all.
No.
Yeah. And so you were saying 48 hours in between runs is kind of standard. And you're saying that a lot of people go too hard, too fast, and then they'll end up hurting their ligaments or their tendons. What is a sign potentially that somebody is going too hard when they're getting back into running? What are is there warning signs, or is it kind of just you have to take it easy because you won't notice?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Your joints and muscles will feel a fair bit tighter when you start running, because you are loading them in a totally different way if you haven't been running before or doing any kind of impact activity. But chronic tightness that just doesn't seem to loosen up with stretching is a sign that your body's not quite handling the load. And then the other big warning sign is pain. And if there's anyone that is the best people ignoring pain, it is runners. They ignore pain all the time.
Oh yeah. I've done a little bit of running in my day. I did a full marathon 2 years ago.
I remember that.
And that was,
I helped coach you for it.
She helped me. I didn't even mention this. She was my running coach for my marathon. So if you guys need a running coach, go to Kate. She helped me with the program. I didn't stick to it perfectly because I also had a vacation in Mexico in there, and you know how Mexico goes, right? So I wasn't necessarily doing my, 2-hour runs.
That's every run plan though. Here's your ideal way that you're going to progress to your marathon, but this is actually what happens.
Yeah.
You get vacations, injuries, you get sick, the weather.
But yeah, I will say though, a marathon is no joke. I've done a bunch of 10Ks and halves. Full thing is next level. Definitely hire a coach if you're going to approach that, because it's something completely different. You're going to have to deal with muscle cramping. You're going to have to deal with the mental fatigue of just like getting to the 30K mark and still having a full 12
Nothing
kilometers.
Like it. There's nothing like it.
It's a different beast. So anyways, we're getting a little bit sidetracked here. We know that you guys are just getting back into running, so no marathons in the near future, but maybe, you know, after you've been training for a while, yeah, maybe next year. We kind of mentioned, you know, like the calf raises and those basic exercises for before you get back into it, but a lot of people will still be going to the gym or want to pair a strength training program with running because there is a lot of benefit to strength training while you run, just in terms of joint health, muscular strength, and also just longevity with running. So in terms of, you know, some of the exercises or kind of program setup that you like to see for your clients, what's ideal in terms of like how many days a week, you know, what types of exercises, load progressions, that kind of stuff? You don't have to give us all the details, but yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
My first thing that I would tell people to consider is running more important or is strength training more important? It is damn near impossible if you are just a regular human, not an elite athlete, to progress strength training and progress running at the same time. You sort of want to pick one or the other to concentrate your energy into. If you try to be elite at both, you end up injuring yourself due to the overload of tissues. So typically, if you're focusing on running, 2 days of strength training is perfect. 3 if you can manage it. But if you're like looking for running as like a supplement to your cardiovascular fitness and you want to focus more on strength training, then that's where you would like strength train 4 days a week and maybe just run 3.
Okay, yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because in terms of, you know, there's a rate of specificity here if we're talking about being like elite at strength training versus elite at running. They are two polar opposites. One is fully endurance based, the other one is maximal force production based. So you can't actually be elite at both. You could be good at both, but you actually need very good genetics in order to be, you know, very good at both and or enhanced. So that's what I've dealt with too, because I've done a lot of I have a lot of clients that want to strength train and run. I've done a lot of strength training and running. I changed my programming around that to really facilitate the added volume of running, because running is a very high volume activity. It's a lot of striking the ground, it's a lot of force into the tissue of the lower body, and it's a lot of continuous strain, right? Whereas strength training, maybe you're only doing 5, 6, 8 reps of something, right? Or lower if you're doing powerlifting, maybe 1 or 2 reps. You're doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reps when you're running.
Yeah.
So it's a very different type of training.
Exactly. And the strain on your central nervous system when you start increasing the distance, so you're running, let's say 45 minutes plus, you do need that time to recover afterwards. So, you know, making sure that you don't have a huge strength day the day after you've done one of your longest runs, giving yourself time to recover.
Okay, that's
super important.
That's good information. So I shouldn't do a max deadlift the day after a long run.
No.
Okay.
Your hamstrings will be crying.
Good to know.
You'll be booking appointments with your physio.
Yeah, no, okay, that's awesome. And what are some of the, you know, key exercises? You don't have to give us every exercise, but if you're making a program for somebody getting back into running, give us like maybe 2 or 3 exercises that you would like to see in that program. I know you mentioned single leg exercises were pretty important. Single
leg exercises are my favorite. I love a Bulgarian split squat because it will strengthen your glutes, your quads, and your adductors. So that's like a all-round favorite for me. Single leg deadlift for hamstring and glute strength, and then like a nice posterior lunge, like a reverse lunge. They're my 3 favorites. And I find myself prescribing the same strength exercises for the runners that come and see me for injuries who don't do any strength training. They're my top 3.
Okay, those are the top 3. So all sort of lunge variations there, guys, but very important to have that single leg strength, because like she said, we are putting all of our load into one side of the body and then transferring it to the other side of the body. When you're running, you never have both your feet firmly planted on the ground. It's always a transfer every single second. So I think that's super important. The next piece to that too, what I help a lot of people with is kind of mobility and recovery, and then we'll also talk a little bit about nutrition, stress, and just managing maybe the overall damage that running causes would be really, really good. So in terms of mobility, like something I see a lot with people when they first start running is they'll complain of like low back pain, generally because they sit a lot, their hips are really locked up, their pelvis is anteriorly tilted, and they also probably don't have enough glute strength to kind of keep their posture and their position when they run, right? So what are some of the mobility things that you would kind of prescribe to people in the beginning if they're looking to kind of open up their hips or if they're dealing with low back pain when they run?
The list is endless. The list is endless. With running, it is an extension focused sport. So your quads are gonna pull your hips forward, you're gonna get a little jammed up in the back, and that's totally normal, it's fine, unless it does cause you pain, in which case I would prescribe something that's a little bit more flexion based to open up the low back. For stretching, I mean, hitting all of your major muscle groups in your legs, so your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, and your adductors, all as like a nice big mobility session after a big run feels really good. And then doing it the next day after the run is probably the more important day to really work on your mobility.
Awesome. And are you a fan of like foam rolling and SMR work, or like what's your thoughts on that? Because I do give a lot of my clients prior to strength training, like when they come in for a session, to help with blood flow and kind of opening up range of motion.
I love it for a warm up.
Okay, for a warm up, perfect. And that's usually where I've been prescribing it. Like it can be good as a recovery tool sometimes, but I find I'm actually going more towards something like a massage gun or a vibration tool for post. And then I'm using foam rolling as kind of a, in the warm up sequence, just to kind of help to open up that area temporarily. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you felt like foam rolling your quads after you ran your marathon, but most people after a long run don't feel like foam rolling at all.
No, but I think like in the days afterwards, it can kind of help to flush, blood through that area. It can help to, decrease pain a little bit. It's not a cure-all by any means. Don't click away, guys, because we do have a warm-up for you guys coming up at the end of the video. We want to provide you with a warm-up to do before you run. We're also going to talk a little bit more about injuries, but if you made it this far in the video, please remember to like the video, leave a comment below if this helped you out, and subscribe to the channel because we do release more important videos every single month to help you with your nutrition, your fitness, and your health. And also I want to let Kate give a little bit of a, like, where can we find you if we're looking for you?
You can find me on Instagram at coach.kate_physio. And I work out of Trelaw Physiotherapy in Vancouver and Impulse Sport Therapeutics in Port Moody. Then if you contact me through my Instagram, by the end of the year, I've been so busy this year, but by the end of the year, I'll have a website up and running where I provide online return to running or commencing running programs, mainly focused at injury prevention because that's my specialty, but running plans for anyone.
Okay, so watch for her website, it's coming. She's gonna have lots of running plans on there. We'll link all of the stuff down below in the description as well. And then as per usual for myself, if you guys want to work on your nutrition, your fitness, you're looking to get into strength training, change your lifestyle and build better habits, I do work with people one-to-one all over the world. You just click the link below, apply for my coaching, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about injuries. I know that knee pain is a very common thing that comes up with runners, so we can talk about knee pain. We already talked a little bit about back pain earlier, but yeah, if you wanna just talk about knee pain, what you see with clients, and what's some of the resolution that people can have with the knee pain.
Yeah, it's one of the most common injuries that runners will experience. Is, just, they call it runner's knee, which is just like a broad-based term for pain in your knee when you run. Typically, it'll come from two things. Thing number one, tight quads. They're just super tight and they just need to be released and stretched. And the other thing it'll come from is weak glutes. So unless you are actively strengthening your glutes, you probably won't get enough strength while you run. So you'll need to do something to supplement the glute strength. The big bone at the top of your thigh, your femur, is influenced heavily by what goes on at the top here. So if your glute is weak, then it's going to influence your knee position. And typically if the glute is weak when your foot hits the ground, it's going to find a nice stable position internally rotated, which then puts a lot of strain on the inside part of your knee here, which will then cause a lot of pain.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with anybody. Like, I always do an assessment when people come to the gym. Single leg stability is always a part of that, and that's what we see a lot of, is just complete knee valgus, which means the knee caves inwards, generally indicating either instability at the foot and ankle, but usually it's because their glute, specifically like glute med, glute min, is super weak, and because they don't use their glutes on a regular basis. So that is another important thing for, if you're gonna be strength training, throw in some glute bridges, throw in some banded side steps and or banded clamshells, things that are gonna train the hip abduction because that is really going to help you long term with glute strength.
Exactly. And with runners, I like to get you doing glute strength in standing on one leg, because that will transfer perfectly into running. So for example, a clamshell, I'll get a band around a runner's knee and make them do it in standing like that.
Nice.
And then it will transfer way faster into running than lying on your side and trying to lift your leg up.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's almost a more natural position, because when are you ever lying on your side and trying to lift your leg up like that?
Not often for me.
Not often,
no.
yeah. Once a week for me, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, no, that's good. That's good information to have. Just like mobility, there's other things as well, like nutrition and stress management, stuff that we talk about on the channel here all the time, which is super important not only for running, but just for general health, right? A lot of people aren't managing their stress well. A lot of people aren't eating whole foods nutrition, and they really need to be. So that would kind of be my next question to you, is in terms of nutrition and then stress management, what are some of the things you seem to run into with a lot of your clients? And what do you usually recommend for somebody getting into running and or trying to limit their stress while running?
That's an excellent question. A lot of people, myself included, use running as a stress management tool. I find I just organize all of my thoughts perfectly if I can just go for a run. If you're relying on running for your stress management and you're really stressed, then that's where you're going to run into problems. First of all, you could be overdoing the running and running every day, not giving yourself enough time to recover, because you need that release to help with the other stresses in your life. And then, ignoring the signs that your body needs a little bit of rest. And then the nutrition problem comes in people typically just underfueling for the amount of running that they're doing. So if you're brand new to running, fueling is probably not your main consideration, just easing your body into running is. But if you're starting to pick up running like 3-4 times a week, you're gonna sign up for a 10K and then a half marathon and then a marathon. It's a slippery slope you start to fall down. You wanna make sure that your nutrition is gonna support your running. If you are using running as a weight loss tool, it can be a little tricky to do, because you will naturally increase your resting metabolic rate as your cardiovascular and running fitness improves. I don't know if you've looked at the elite runners, but they're little bean poles. But they probably eat more than you do.
Oh, I don't doubt it, because running, like if you're a marathon runner and you're running for multiple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, like that burns a hell of a lot of calories, right?
Sure does.
I always use the example of, I had a buddy that was an Olympic swimmer, and he was eating like 6,000 or 7,000 calories a day because he had 3 training sessions a day, multiple hours, and just swimming. And you need calories when you're doing that much running. If you're just doing a moderate or light amount of exercise, obviously you don't need as much fuel, right? So I'd be, I always tell people to be moderate with their intake in the beginning. One question, actually, this is kind of an interesting one, this might come up for you as well, is I know that a lot of people in the running community, there's kind of an argument between like a fat-based diet like keto or carnivore and like carbohydrate-based athletes. Obviously for the general population, I don't prescribe any sort of extremist diet, but what do you see with people and what can kind of work well for some?
Carbs.
Carbs
are everyone's best friend. So for someone who's training for a marathon, let's say, your diet is probably going to shift to about 50% carbohydrates.
Wow.
That's what my diet is.
Nice.
50% at least carbs.
Eat your carbs.
Your stored energy source in your muscles is glycogen, and your carbs are going to replace that really nice and quickly. Your protein intake will help supplement your recovery, but your energy is going to come from your carbohydrates. And that's the fuel source that you'll use when you start to run out of glycogen in the muscles, hence why runners will always have like energy gels or energy drinks, some kind of sugar source with them.
Went through so many of those in my marathon,
It's the point when nothing helps you.
No, nothing helps at a certain point. But no, and that's great. Like, with a lot of my clients, and even if you go back to my previous videos, I don't preach any sort of extremist diets. Is there a time and place that those can work for some people? For sure. But I believe in whole foods based diet, good quality carbohydrates, good quality proteins, good quality fruits and vegetables. levels, and that's going to be, you know, our optimal diet. And then within that, you know, every single person is going to have their own things that maybe sets them off digestively, and that's something that you have to explore on your own. So I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all diet, but I do believe that all of those foods do fit into a healthy human optimal diet. So that's great to hear. I'm definitely a big fan of carbohydrates as well.
It's the best. And I feel like if you're focusing on your road running, nutrition needs to be on point, because you are going to push your body to a limit and you're sustaining that limit for quite a long time. If you shift into trail running and the ultra marathoners out there, Judy, you would love an aid station at an ultra marathon. It has chips, it has chocolate, it has pickles, we've got fruit, we've got everything you could possibly want is there, because you are like out there for, you know, 6, 7, 8 plus hours at a time, and you just need all the energy you can get.
Yeah.
So there are two very different schools of runners. I dabble in both. You have the marathoners that will treat their bodies like frickin' temples, and then after the run eat anything they want. And then the ultra marathoners that just, like, you know, will fuel their 50K the night before with a beer and a burger.
There you go. Yeah, it's like I compete in strongman too, and it's very much like that. You have people drinking beers during the competition. You have people eating whole pizzas the night before. That's why I always tell people, like, there's a difference between sport and then exercise for health, because there's always an aspect of sport that isn't necessarily healthy per se, but to get to a certain level, you do need to fuel your body with a lot of extra glycogen.
Sometimes they're just not quality calories,
yeah,
and
exactly.
that's fine.
And that's okay, guys, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody needs to be perfect.
Yeah, but runners do need to be aware that after they've gone for a run, the amount of calories that they're burning will still be quite high afterwards, which is why you'll always feel hungry when you start run training. And then if you're looking to start training for things like half marathons and marathons, or you dabble into trail running as well, making sure that you get enough calories in your diet is so important for recovery, because otherwise we end up with stress type injuries. In 2022, I was training my ass off to qualify for Boston again, and I ignored every single sign in my body that I wasn't giving it enough nutrition, wasn't getting enough sleep, I was super stressed, and I got a really lovely stress fracture in my femur.
Oh.
That put me off running for 4 months.
Yeah, femur, that's no joke.
Nope, it was very painful. But I learned my lesson, and now I pay a lot more attention to things that, I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I've got all the knowledge behind me to support it, but still having someone's outside help to just look at your training, look at your nutrition, look at your strength work, take in what you're saying about your training as well, and analyze that from an outside perspective is super important.
Yeah. Even coaches need coaches, guys. That's
1000%.
A rule. Everyone needs a coach. I mean, I used her when I was doing my marathon. I wasn't about to go into that alone. And, you know, I help people all the time with, you know, getting back into strength training, getting back into the gym, with their nutrition, because it's hard, right? It's any sort of lifestyle shift, any change you guys make, it's going to be not easy in the beginning, right? It's no matter where you slice it, it's always going to be hard to change what you're doing and introduce something new. So that's going to be kind of our next segment here, is going to be considerations, like things like footwear and any other sort of considerations that maybe we haven't gone over yet when someone's first getting back into running, because I know you said that's a common question you get, is like, what shoes do I wear?
Yeah.
Like, you know, should I wear shorts or pants, or I don't know, like whatever the questions are. We'll go over considerations right now, and we'll get into it from there.
Considerations for starting running, if we're looking for gear, of course, stay within your price bracket. It is so easy to spend tons of money on running gear, the free sport, right?
It's like golfing,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's like any sport, you can spend thousands, yeah.
So the biggest consideration for footwear is what feels comfortable for you. That is my number one. I would go into your local running store. Going to like a big chain store is probably not your best bet. You want to go somewhere where they live and breathe running. You tell them about any concerns you have about your footwear, and they'll bring you like 5 different kinds of shoes. You get to try them on, and honestly, the best shoe is the one that fits you. Considerations to think about with buying shoes with running is what the shoe is designed for. So you don't want to buy a trail shoe if you're just going to be like hitting the seawall here.
Yeah.
Because the lugs on it, so the chunky bits of rubber on the bottom are quite thick.
Yeah.
So you'll grip to the ground and it will be harder to run. But then again, you don't want a road shoe to take you up into the mountains back there because you will fall over, you will slip down. So the style of running that you want to do, how much cushion you would prefer to have is also something to consider. So some people I run with like no cushion at all, shoes similar to this.
What are those?
And then some people I run with like lots of cushion, like what I'm wearing now.
And I actually did exactly that. I bought a pair of the Hoka Speed Goats because I liked the look of them, and I didn't really look at what they were for.
No.
And then I started running the seawall, and I was like, oh, these are kind of interesting. I was like, oh, these are actually a trail running shoe.
Yeah.
So, and I had already used them, so I still have used them to run the seawall, and it's been fine. And I'm a bigger guy, so I actually have benefited from the extra cushion, but not what they're designed for. So pay attention to the shoes that you buy. I would, recommend going into like a running room or something where they have experts that can help you choose, because I went into a sports check and, or a Foot Locker or something like that.
And they sold you a trail shoe.
Yeah, and then
for
I was
running.
like, what's the best running shoe for, you know, somebody that's, you know, over 220? And they're like, this one. I was like, cool, I'll take it, right? I was like, this 14-year-old guy knows what he's talking about.
He knows
Like, he must know. Yeah, so do your research.
Do your research.
Go ask the professionals, and you guys will get set up with some good footwear.
And if you're already doing a bit of walking or you're on your feet a fair bit, there are some specs in your shoes that you can look for as well. So the difference in height between the heel and the midfoot is really important to consider at the moment, and it goes in and out of phases. I remember when I first became a physio, zero drop shoes were really popular about 13, 15 years ago. They've come back, zero drop shoes. If you don't wear any kind of zero drop shoe, which means that your heel and your midfoot are the exact same height, it does lead to overuse injuries in your calf or a calf tear. So you want to ease yourself into a zero drop shoe if that's the route that you would like to take, a more minimalist shoe. But if you're looking like, oh, I've got some calf issues, or I feel like my calves are working too hard, we can go with a higher drop so that you're sort of rolling onto your midfoot, but that will increase the force that goes through your knee. So if you have knee problems, you probably want to look at a little bit of a lower drop as well. So there's a lot of considerations, but at the end of the day, it's the shoe that feels comfortable, that makes you excited to go out and run on it.
There we go. Yeah, you gotta be stoked for it or you won't do it. I talk about that a lot too with strength training guys. It's like, find something that you absolutely actually enjoy and love to do, and you'll do it for a lot longer, right? If you absolutely dread doing something, sometimes I still say, well, suck it up because it's good for you. But at the end of the day, you will find still some of those things that you like more than others. And there is a really big key to longevity, is finding things that you enjoy and that will get you up and out of bed to actually do them. So find a good pair of footwear. Other thing I just thought of is like, because I am a bigger guy and I have bigger quads, I get some rubbing. So when I was actually running my longer distances, I was using things like those body bars.
Oh, Body Glide.
Yeah, Body Glide.
It's a life changer.
Yeah, you like it, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I would just say if you're like, you know, a bigger person, you have bigger quads that tend to chafe or to rub, or you have chafing in your armpits, look into something like Body Glide or Vaseline, which is really gonna help your limbs glide against each other and just give you a more enjoyable experience, because that's something that I've ran into again and again, being somebody that's a little bit of a bigger, like, you know, I'm a strength training professional and I have big quads, big arms. I definitely get some chafing and some rubbing when I run. Those can be a huge game changer, because then you're not all raw after you finish a run. Unless it's a marathon, you're still gonna be probably raw regardless.
Something's gonna chafe after a marathon, something will rub.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, look into that, because that can actually make your experience a lot better. Any other sort of considerations that you can think of?
Really good pair of running socks. So a lot of runners will have this little phrase that cotton is rotten. Do not wear cotton. It absorbs moisture and holds onto it and rubs.
Cotton is rotten.
Cotton is rotten when it comes to running. A good pair of socks that's like breathable. So when your feet start to sweat and expand a little bit, they're not going to get wound up in your shoes and give you blisters. A little bit of padding underneath your midfoot and your heel feels really nice in a running sock as well. And just don't wear cotton shirts.
Okay.
It hurts.
No cotton shirts, no cotton socks.
Yeah.
No cotton shirts because it hurts, no cotton socks because cotton is rotten.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I also get a lot of questions about zone 2 training at the moment.
Okay, yeah.
TikTok has made it very popular. If you're getting into running, worrying about heart rate zones and the specific zone 2 is probably not a fun thing to do. You will need a wearable heart rate monitor. I personally love my Garmin. Some people have Apple Watches. Something that measures your heart rate. There are 5 heart rate zones, and each zone is determined by a percentage of your max heart rate.
Yes.
So zone 2 training, you're keeping your heart rate quite low as you're running. It is really effective if you've been running for quite a while and it's part of your training plan to do an easy recovery run. If you're just getting into running, like typically your heart rate is going to shoot up through the roof. Your heart and lungs, like your cardiovascular system, isn't efficient at delivering oxygen to your muscles at this point in time. So you have to embrace a little bit of the suck. Your heart rate will go high. If it gets to a point where it's intolerable, just walk for a little bit, feel normal again, then start running. Eventually your tolerance to having a high heart rate will improve, and your ability of your heart and lungs to exchange oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide will improve as well. And your muscles will become so efficient that you'll need less oxygen to go for a run. And then your heart rate will stay nice and low.
There we go. So yeah, once again, guys, I think like she said earlier, don't focus so much on the specifics in the beginning. Focus on time, focus on doing what you can, and then walking. So jogging and walking, or running and walking. And then you guys will be able to get back into that over time. As promised, guys, we're gonna give you guys a 5-part warm-up to run. I think this should be good for any run. Kate's
Any
gonna
run,
walk.
anyone.
Any run. Kate's gonna walk us through it. So what are we doing first?
I thought we'd start with a world's greatest stretch to help open up the hips and the spine.
Sure.
So we'll start by stepping one big step back, bring one hand to the floor for a bit of balance, and we're just gonna open up to the side. I like to do this like 3 to 5 times. You'll notice every rep that you do, you'll be able to get a little further. You feel that mobility through your spine and your hips, Judah, doesn't it feel good?
Feels good.
Nice. And we'll do the other side, big step back, drop your hips low, reach up. Make sure you're breathing while you do it as well. That's important.
Feels good.
Feels great. Nice. And then after we've sort of opened up the joints, we want to get some blood pumping to the tissues that we're going to use the most. So number 1 is the calves. And typically I like to just like jump up and down on the spot.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep, and then if you want, you can pull your toes up as you jump. Wait, look at you go, Judah.
Got a little spring.
Nice. Always good for a warm-up as well. It'll tell you how your body's feeling. So if you're feeling like a bit of a strain in your body, then maybe today's not the day to run.
Yeah, so that's the concrete trampoline.
Yeah.
One of the best, so.
And then I like to throw in some A-skips. Have you done an A-skip before, Judah?
Not for a while. Maybe back when I played rugby, I kind of remember doing them, but.
So basically you want to drive one arm and knee up.
That's right.
But quite quick with a hop. Nice. And then we're gonna switch it from an A skip. We're gonna take it up to a C, so you're gonna kick your butt. With the arms.
Oh, with the arms?
Yeah, with the arms.
And still a little hop there too? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the hop will help get a little bit more blood pumping to the calf tissue as well. Beautiful. And then I like for the last one to help open up the hips to do some leg swings. Typically you want to find something to hold on to.
Okay.
So I'm gonna use you.
All right, perfect.
And we're gonna go big swing forward and backwards. There we go.
I've got enough balance for it.
You got great balance. And then side to side as well. So taking it onto the side, look at you go.
I've got okay single leg balance here.
I'll
Oh, we're
just kick you.
colliding. Yeah.
Nice. So
Okay.
yeah, opening up your hips for the front and then the side,
Okay, yeah,
like that.
perfect.
You're ready to run.
I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. We had a great time making it, and we hope it provided a lot of value to you. If you liked the video, once again, just subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment. It really helps us grow. And once again, if you want to find Coach Kate, all of her stuff should be down below, including her socials, her website, etc. But now we're gonna go for a bit of run. So we'll see you later.
Let's go.